Hello everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, Sydney Nadiancio, and I'm so thrilled to be back on air because I have definitely been preoccupied in the last few weeks with building the website, which I plan to roll out by next week, and it's so exciting because I'll be able to introduce several new features, several new ways you can listen to the podcast, and it'll help us spread throughout the country, spread globally, and I'm so excited for this website. But, of course, welcome back to the Deep Dive, and in today's episode, we are finally back to talking about The Giver, talking chapter by chapter analysis. We are going to be talking about Chapter 3 of The Giver. So in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, of course, when we discussed in our Pivotal Moment episode, one big theme in The Giver that is not to ignore is emotional suppression. Now, of course, there are some elements in the story that I pointed out that can make it seem as if it's magical, and you'll especially notice this later in the book as we progress through the chapters. But if you take a close look at it, it's less magical and more psychological. So, of course, in Chapter 3, Jonis sees the new child and that his eyes look different. That the new baby, Gabriel, that his eyes look different when he finally comes home. Now, obviously, Jonas's eyes kind of look like his too. And he notices that Gabriel's eyes look different when his sister Lily points it out. Now, his sister Lily, obviously, Jonas waited for his parents to quote unquote chastise her, punish her. Obviously, because now in this community, you're not really supposed to point out things you notice if someone's eyes look different, which makes sense in real life. It does make sense to not want to comment on the way people's eyes look. However, in The Giver, the reason why this is emphasized, and as we're going to notice more in Chapter 3, that people are yelled at for the small things. Another element of emotional suppression. These people are so emotionally suppressed that they can't make a single mistake. But of course, we're human and we're not perfect. And obviously, the people on the loudspeaker find a reason just to yell at anybody. So, Jonas is obviously doing his homework, or as he calls them, his school assignments. And while Lily is talking with her parents, she says that she likes the way new children look and how cute they are, and she wants to be a birth mother. Okay, Lily wants to be a birth mother because she wants to see new children. Now, in this chapter, we learn that the whole birth mother thing, that there only being 3 births, is a form of population control. And this has been a theme from the very beginning. This is why kids are adopted in the first place in The Giver. Because only so many kids can be born. And so obviously, Jonas is a little shocked that his sister wants to be a birth mother. Perhaps he's experienced things. His parents are shocked that Lily wants to be a birth mother. And Jonas and Lily's mother explains that if you're a birth mother, you only get to live in this luxury for 3 years, because Lily points out, the birth mothers are pampered. They get this delicious food that everyone else doesn't. They get to play games and hang around in the birthing center. However, this is not completely true, because once you give birth, once you have those 3 children, you are assigned to be a laborer for the rest of your life. And this is why this assignment is looked so far down upon. This is why, because everyone is used to children being adopted, and you're a birth mother. That's, you're not the one who takes care of the children, you just carry them and give birth to them and of course they're quote unquote assigned to their families. Now, of course, in this chapter, later on, Jonis remembers the apple that he had taken home once. And he played catch with Asher. Now, the loudspeaker obviously has these different announcements. There's these different announcements that play over the loudspeaker. Don't do this, don't do that. And they're not necessarily directed at a specific person. For example, Jonis had taken an apple home. And on the loudspeaker, the voice said, apples are to be eaten, not hoarded. Now, obviously, this is a very specific announcement, obviously directed at Jonis. Now, what Jonis notices is how the apple that he's playing catch with looked a little different. He wasn't sure what was unusual about the apple, but this is where we get into the whole psychology part of it. These kids were trained their whole lives to suppress every single emotion they have. They were taught their whole lives that there's no significance to their feelings, that essentially their feelings are looked down upon, and we talked about the sharing of feelings. How that is basically where people go around, share their feelings, and of course, naturally, emotionally suppressed. Of course, some of the older people are going to look down upon that and say, it is silly that you have this feeling. It is silly that you have this emotion. Move on. It's going to be okay. Like I said, only a small part of it. But because people are emotionally suppressed, and I do not use that term lightly, they are taught from a very young age that traumatic experiences are insignificant through their comfort objects that they are assigned at birth, from their comfort objects to their assignment groups. When, of course, you're in 11 and you're going to your new assignment group. And so Jonis and Asher were playing catch with this apple, and Jonis notices something unusual about the apple. Now, later when he looks at the apple, when he takes it home, again, against the recreation area rules, against the rules that were assigned, against the rules that were established at the recreation area. He'd taken home the apple, again, a new apple, and the one he'd play catch with. And he noticed that nothing was unusual about it this time. Now, perhaps the reason why nothing appeared unusual about the apple is because, of course, this apple had occurred to him to be unusual before, and now he's questioning himself. So see, this is the psychology behind it. Because people are trained to heavily suppress their emotions, they no longer think that their emotions were significant. Now, I know this is kind of a short chapter, so it's going to be a short episode, but this is why, again, I'm tying this into chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 4 and chapter 5 is where it gets interesting, folks, so please stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive with Sydney Nadiancio. See you next time.